Hello! Today, we'll be showing you how to replace the motherboard in a Lenovo 11E Chromebook. First, you will need a few tools. An anti-static mat is recommended to prevent electrostatic discharge, which can damage electronic parts. A small, magnetic tip Phillips head screwdriver will be necessary for this replacement. You will need thermal paste during this replacement. A spudger will also come in handy during this replacement. You can use either plastic or metal, whichever you prefer. If you have tweezers, you may also want to have them handy, as they might be useful when dealing with small parts. The first step will be to remove the 6 service cover screws. Next, you will use your spudger to carefully pry up and remove the service cover. Now, you will remove the 4 battery screws. Next, you will pull up on the tab at the top of the battery, disconnect the battery cable, and remove the battery. Now, you can remove the 4 screws from under the battery, which are labeled M 2x2. Next, you will remove all 4 screws labeled M 2x4. Now, you will remove the 2 rubber feet and the 2 screws beneath the rubber feet in the 2 bottom corners of the bottom cover. Next, you will remove the 4 remaining bottom cover screws, which are along the top of the bottom cover. Next, you will disconnect the 2 Wi-Fi antenna cables. Now, you will remove the Wi-Fi card screw and then remove the Wi-Fi card. Now, you will disconnect the camera cable. Next, you will disconnect the LCD cable. You can now turn the Chromebook back over and use your spudger to carefully pry up the keyboard. Now, you can disconnect the keyboard cable and remove the keyboard. Next, you will remove the 4 M2x4 screws from underneath the keyboard. Now, you will disconnect the speaker cable. Next, you will disconnect the Wi-Fi card cable. Now, you can disconnect the touchpad cable. Now, you will disconnect the SSD cable. Now, you can use your spudger to carefully pry up and remove the palm rest assembly. Next, you will remove the 2 port cover screws. Once they are removed, you can remove both pieces of the port cover and the plastic spacer beneath it. Now, you can remove the motherboard screw. Next, you can unscrew the fan screw. You can leave the screw attached to the fan as long as it's detached from the cover. Now, you can flip up the motherboard, disconnect the power port cable, and remove the motherboard. Now that the motherboard is removed, you will need to first disconnect the fan cable from the motherboard. Now, you will loosen the 4 heatsink screws and then remove the heatsink and fan from the motherboard. The first step in the installation of your replacement motherboard will be to apply thermal paste to the CPU. Now, you will set the heatsink into place and tighten the 4 heatsink screws. Next, you will reconnect the fan cable to the motherboard. Now, you will reconnect the power port cable to the motherboard and set the motherboard back into place. Next, you will tighten down the fan screw. Now, you will replace the motherboard screw. Next, you will set the 2 pieces of the port cover and the plastic spacer back into place and replace the 2 port cover screws. Now, you can set the palm rest assembly in place and snap it back onto the frame. Next, you will reconnect the SSD cable. Now, you will reconnect the touchpad cable. Now, you will reconnect the Wi-Fi card cable. Now, you will reconnect the speaker cable. Next, you will replace the 4 M2x4 screws that go underneath where the keyboard will be. Now, you will reconnect the keyboard cable and snap the keyboard back into place. Next, you will turn the Chromebook over and replace the 4 M2x4 screws. Now, you will replace the 4 M2x2 screws that are under where the battery will be. Next, you will reconnect the camera cable. Now, you will reconnect the LCD cable. Next, you will replace the Wi-Fi card and then replace the Wi-Fi card screw. Now, you will work the Wi-Fi cables back into the notches in the bottom cover and reconnect them to the Wi-Fi card. Next, you will reconnect the battery cable. Now, you will set the battery back into place and replace the 4 battery screws. Next, you will replace all 6 bottom cover screws and the 2 rubber feet that go over top the 2 screws in the bottom corners. Now, you will replace the service cover and the 6 service cover screws. You have now successfully replaced the motherboard in your Lenovo Chromebook. Good job!